Hey everyone, I wanted to do a quick E3 Day 1 wrap-up, going over some of the biggest reveals and some of the biggest information that was provided to us today on basically the very first day of E3. We're going to have 4 days of E3. Tomorrow we have a lot of things to look forward to, but today we definitely have some things that were worth noting and perhaps you might have missed out on if you weren't paying attention or you were simply working because it was definitely happening in the middle of the day. It all started with a very small indies presentation that I believe it was called Wholesome Games. It didn't necessarily have anything major other than a bunch of indies as you would have expected. A little bit in the same tier of an Indies World presentation or something like that. But they were very cute, very quirky little games that some are coming to PC, most are coming to Switch. But I don't think necessarily anything stood out. But it's worth mentioning for sure if you're into indie games to at least look up the Wholesome Games presentation if you are into indie games. Then they spent a lot of time getting into the whole preparation into the Ubisoft event, which sadly for Ubisoft, a lot of the information seems to have leaked, and also Microsoft's presentation seems to have leaked either last night or a couple of days ago. So there's a lot of information already floating about what were we actually going to be able to see. But the Ubisoft presentation, I'm glad to say that it was probably the best one out of all of the ones that we had. I didn't make a video about the IGN presentation yesterday, but I do think that one was a really good presentation for what they did. It was an hour long. They showed a lot of interesting things. And unlike the Summer Game Show, whatever that thing was called, the Jeff Keighley thing, which just dragged on forever, and it was a long Amazon Prime commercial, which was completely unnecessary. That one basically just dragged on, and all they had to show was just obviously Elden Ring. But basically going over the Ubisoft presentation today, they gave us 2 firm release dates. Riders Republic releasing on September 2nd, Rainbow Six Extraction on September 16th. Now, Riders Republic to me seems like the most promising title out of everything that they showed, easily. And that's because that game seems to have at least a soul. It seems to have something going for it. But the question will constantly remain whenever they do these type of games that they're not like mainstream appeal, you know, not a shooter, not a big open world third person, first person action game. Will they have the player base to support it? Anything with a service type idea needs to have a player base. And Riders Republic is going to live and die by how many people are actually playing it at any one time. So while they sit there and talk about like, hey, you're going to have these big massive races with hundreds of people, at the same time, it's like, are there going to be hundreds of people ready to race at any and all times? You know, that's going to be the real question. But ultimately, I think it looks extremely promising. I just hope there's a player base for it. And I also think that a $60 price tag for that game hurts it a little bit. I think like $40 would be the great jumping off point. Maybe even on Game Pass, but I know Ubisoft wouldn't necessarily do that. Put that thing on Game Pass day one and people will be playing it like crazy. I know I would. Rainbow Six Extraction, it feels like there's just a lot of these like 4-player co-op versus the environments versus the world type of games that are actually set to release. Left 4 Blood is another one of those that is like doing the same thing. So I'm not necessarily sure how much this one's gonna hit, but it's Rainbow Six, so there's Siege out there and these people love Siege. So if this game is anything above a 7, you know, it's probably gonna do very well sales wise, I think. And there's going to be a lot of people playing it. The whole question about Riders Republic having players, you know, checking it out, I don't think that's ever going to be a question with any sort of Rainbow Six game. People love to jump into those games, and then whether they stick around or not is entirely up to the actual game's quality. Now, a lot of games did leak earlier in the past couple of days, and Mario + Rabbids Spark of Hope was one of the biggest ones that leaked. It is coming next year. It is not a game that is set to release this year. But other than that, I don't think we actually had seen anything other than Nintendo actually posting the official game eShop page. It went live either sometime this morning or late last night, which is, again, Nintendo, what are you doing? But other than that, oh man, that game looks so good. The CGI trailer looked amazing. And then you're probably seeing the like little bit of gameplay that they showed off, which again, promising. And you even have people like Jason Schreier talking about how this is actually a Switch Pro game. He didn't say it directly, but he's basically saying like, hey, Ubisoft in 2012 showed off Watch Dogs, the very first Watch Dogs, but they didn't say it was like a PlayStation 4 game, and now they're showing off this. So, and they don't actually explain why it looks so good. I don't necessarily think it looks all that great. Like, Switch Pro worthy mention, but it is what it is. It still looks extremely interesting, and I'm all about Rabbids Rosalina looking exactly as like a true gamer. She's just completely uninterested and bored, so I'm all for that energy. Lastly, their big reveal, and it was something that never actually leaked, and this is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. This game is set to release next year according to them, but it could obviously be pushed and eventually be delayed. But yeah, man, a game about Avatar. I know they're making like movies and stuff like that. I think I saw the original movie a years back. I'm shocked that they're actually making a game. Like, I guess I shouldn't be, but I am. I just didn't necessarily expect to see this, and again, because it didn't leak, it was just such a nice surprise to see. So it looks great. It looks beautiful. Obviously, it's a next-gen game, PC and all of that. So yeah, looks amazing. Moving over to the Devolver's Unfunny presentation, which I think I've tweeted about this a couple of times, and Devolver digital presentations to me are just the epitome of unfunny, but that is just my opinion. I'm not trying to speak for anyone else, but yeah, they're just very... I know what the humor they're trying to do, but I don't find it funny at all. They had two games that I thought were noteworthy. One is called Trek to Yomi. This is a next-gen game, PS5, Xbox, PC, coming next year. And the one more interesting that I thought was Death's Door. This is actually set to launch on July 20th for Xbox Series X, Series S, and PC. I don't actually know if it said Xbox One. I probably missed that. But yeah, this one probably looks more interesting. It is an isometric action game. It's not necessarily anything you haven't already seen. It does like the dashing and attacking and like find different weapons and stuff like that. It's probably like a faster Tunic. If you've seen the gameplay clips from Tunic yesterday on the IGN presentation, this looks like a way faster version of that, but essentially it's trying to be, a little bit of a Zelda-like, but way faster and with a little bit more action and movement. But other than that, it didn't really necessarily have a lot of games to show. They did some weird thing about a physical game only being available on Switch, but not actually available in the eShop, which is like such a gimmick. By the way, I don't even remember the name of that game, so that's how irrelevant it was. But yeah, other than that, I don't think they actually had anything noteworthy to actually mention. Again, they're way more interested in making jokes and memes than actually like having things to show, so it is what it is. But I think E3 Day 1 was rather subpar in general. Again, only the Ubisoft presentation was the big marquee event. I do know that Gearbox was supposed to have something, but they basically were just talking about movies and stuff, and like the Borderlands movie, and Randy Pitchford were just running his mouth, which is extremely off-putting. So yeah, I just didn't even want to deal with that. But other than that, I don't think the E3 Day 1 was a big, strong showcase, except the Ubisoft presentation. But tomorrow we definitely have a lot of things to look forward to. Obviously, the big Microsoft presentation, they're going to have a lot of games to show. Microsoft always brings it, whether you actually like their games or not, or whether they actually have first-party games to show off. That's a different conversation to be had. But every single time, Microsoft has a lot of games to showcase, because a lot of games just show up on Xbox. So they're definitely going to have a lot of things that I think are going to be interesting. And I think a couple of things leaked for Game Pass already. I'm not necessarily sure if I want to mention them here today, because I'm sure they're going to get mentioned tomorrow. But yeah, some of them are extremely interesting already. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. The Square Enix presentation will also be had at some point tomorrow. And if you believe the leaks, we have a lot of information already on what they're actually going to showcase. I am looking forward to just one very specific collection from a very, let's say, fantasy-like series that I adore. 1 through 6. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Hopefully it is true. Hopefully it does get revealed. And later in the afternoon, I do believe we'll have the PC Gaming Show and the Futures Game Show, which is like a smorgasbord of just reveals. A lot of things are going to get revealed in those two presentations alone, on top of the Microsoft stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty big day. I am going to put out an E3 Day 2 wrap-up video maybe late in the night, because again, those things are going to go on for a little bit. I'm going to try to cover at the very least the top reveals and the top news that we actually ended up getting from them, and basically just give them my takes like I did today. But that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys are actually enjoying E3. I know there's not necessarily that big hype that there has been in previous events, where like there's a presentation, actually, like a physical presentation or anything like that. Everything is just digital, which is a bit of a bummer, but you know, it is what it is. Hopefully they're making the best they can, and you know, they're giving us the best games that they have, you know, coming forward. If you are new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.